as humans, we always decide that we need to figure out how to manage our time. Time is always a difficult thing because sometimes we're running around and we're trying to figure out, what do I have to do with myself? How do I manage my family? How do I manage my business? How do I manage all of these things that I have going on? And a lot of times we get caught up and we don't understand the process of understanding what's urgent and what's important. What's urgent might not be important, and what's important might not be urgent. This was a quadrant or a grid that was created by the Eisenhower grid. It's by Dwight Eisenhower. And he even talked about a professor who always talked about the difference between what's urgent and what's important. It just doesn't always go hand in hand. Now, I'm going to talk about the Valley of Dry Bones because this is a problem that I was looking at when I looked at Ezekiel in trying to understand how to manage time. So you look at in the Bible when it talked about the Valley of Dry Bones, and you look at the Israelites and the promises that God had given them. And God had given them tons and tons of promises about what their future was going to look like. Well, when you look at these Valley of Dry Bones, there was tons of bodies out there that were just decayed for years. Nobody really knows account for how long these bodies were there, but they were there for a while. Now imagine just generation of looking at these bodies dying in this valley, and they were saying to themselves, how can I manage to respect God, to love God when He's not fulfilling these promises? Because we are living on their time, on our own time, and understanding what God has for us. And so with that, whenever when God asked him to speak into the bones, you got to understand a man has over 200 bones, and we're talking about thousands of bones out there. So this is the key. Once these bones started to come together, it took time. Now, how much time did it take for all of these bodies to come together and get tendons and tissue and all of that? Probably it would have taken a ton of time. But in the Bible, it doesn't speak of time being of that big of a lapse. And so with that, I've come to terms that everything that we have in our life is not urgent. We believe that it's urgent and we believe that it's so important, but I believe the things of God are the things that are urgent and the things of the earth are just important. And a lot of times we get those confused, and that's why we deal with procrastination. That's why a lot of times whenever we see these visions of what God has for us, sometimes we think we get impatient and we don't think it's happening fast enough. There's many times in the Bible where Jesus was asked to do something and he just kind of sat laid on the boat, kind of still asleep. People were like, we need you to bring someone else to life. He didn't really move. He didn't jump up. He didn't do a lot of things in that nature. But this is the deal. God knows when something is urgent. And when it is urgent, he will bring it to your attention. And sometimes God thinks that it's important, but it might not just be urgent. And so for us, we have to look at what is time. When we look at forever, because that's the reason why I'm here on earth, is I hope to make it to heaven and live forever. Now, with that forever mindset, when we really think about what is forever, it's a concept of time that we can't even conceptualize what forever is. But this is the thing that I've been reading and I was just studying about the Valley of Dry Bones, is that if we truly believe that there is a forever, then we have to believe that God created the earth in 7 days and all that's within it. And so when we look at that and we say to ourselves, in one day he created the heavens and the earth, in one day he put vegetation on the earth, in one day he created the stars and the moon and everything else, and the human body and birds and sea creatures. And we say each day he created that. Now we say to ourselves, if you look at it, it looks like there was millions of years that it took to make those things happen. But see, that's not God's time. See, for one day in God's world could be millions of hours to us. It didn't say that he created and planted seeds. No, he created full blown vegetation. He didn't just create a baby Adam. No, he created a fully functioning man in one day. And so when we think about time, we have to understand that God wants us to have everything, but it's not in our time. Yes, we might live for years and years, 30, 40 years waiting for something to happen, but it's not a lot of time when it comes to God. And so for us as humans, and we're living, trying to raise our families, trying to become something more than we are, we have to make sure that we are moving in God's time. And sometimes it's just not urgent because we haven't learned the lesson yet. And so sometimes he might be giving you a maybe. He's not giving you a no, but you're just not ready. So when you look at those valley of dry bones, it took breath. And we need to take a breath sometime and just realize that only God can give us that true breath that can last forever. And so for those Israelites, I know that they thought the bodies were done, God's promise was done, but the thing about it is he came back in and he resurrected those bodies. Don't know how much time it was, but we do know that when God promises something, it will always come true. Not in our timing, but in his. And all I'm saying to you on today is just make sure that you are staying in the time management of God and that you truly know what is urgent in your life, and that should be reading the word and really getting into it, because if we believe Revelations, then we have to believe Genesis. And if we believe those, then we know that we have to be prepared when our time comes. We don't have a lot of time. Our lanterns need to be filled, because when he calls upon us, whatever we've done on this earth, that's all we have. There is no more time. And so all I'm saying to everybody out there that can hear my voice, manage your time, but manage it appropriately. It's David Brooks. Had to talk to you for a quick second, but I got to run to my son's game. Love ya.